Hello everyone. In the last lecture we have finished the components of permanent way. So in this lecture we will discuss about the geometric design of railway track. So what is the necessity for doing the geometric design of railway track? So for the smooth and safe running of trains, to achieve maximum speed, to carry heavy axle loads, to avoid accidents and derailments, and for less maintenance efforts and good aesthetic value, the geometric design is necessarily required. So therefore, if all these elements are properly designed, then the possibility of derailment due to defects in the track can be avoided. So here you can see the typical cross section of a permanent way on embankment and on cutting. Okay, so before this you need to understand what is embankment and cutting. So the naturally occurred soil is known as subgrade, but when this subgrade is prepared to receive the ballast over it, then it is known as the formation. Okay, so the formation can be in shape of an embankment or a cutting. So when the formation is in the shape of a raised bank constructed above the natural ground, it is called as embankment. Okay, so example. Okay, so here this is the existing ground. Okay, let we deposit the additional earthwork over this natural ground and we raise the ground level like this. So then this will be called as embankment. Okay, so if we provide the additional earthwork over the existing ground and we raise the ground level, then it is known as the embankment. Okay, so here this prepared formation will be called as the embankment. And if the formation at a level below the natural ground, if the formation will lie at a level below the natural ground, then it will be called as the cutting. So let this is the natural ground. Okay, and if we cut here, or if we excavate the earth below this natural ground and we make the formation like this way. Okay, this is the natural ground and we excavate this part. Okay, we excavate the earthwork this part and we make the formation like this way. So here you can see the formation lies below the natural ground. So here this is known as the cutting. Okay, here this formation is known as the cutting. So the embankment generally lie above the natural ground and the cutting generally lie below the natural ground. Okay, so in the embankment we have to deposit some additional earthwork, but in case of cutting we have to excavate the earthwork. Okay, so hope it is clear to all about the embankment and the cutting. So here you can see this is the natural ground. Okay, here this is the natural ground and we prepared the formation above this natural ground. Okay, this is the formation. Okay, so as this formation is above the natural ground, so this is known as the embankment, and above this formation we provide the railway track. So here this railway track is on a embankment, as here the formation level is above the natural ground. So here the railway track is on the embankment, but here you can see this is the natural ground. this is the natural ground. Okay, and we excavate the earthwork, and here we provide the formation at this bottom. Okay, so here this formation is below the natural ground, so here this formation will be called as the cutting, and here we provide the railway track at the cutting. Okay, so this will be called as the double line broad gauge. Okay, as here you can see there are two lines. Okay, this is one rail line and this is the another rail line, so this will be called as the double line. So this is the cross sectional view of the double broad gauge railway track on a cutting. Okay, and this is here you can see this is one rail line. So this is the cross sectional view of the single broad gauge railway track on the embankment, as here the railway track is provided at the embankment and here the railway track is provided at the cutting. Okay, then next come to gradients. So the amount of slope in longitudinal direction of railway track is called as gradient or grade. So this is the railway track. Okay, so this will be called as this direction will be called as the longitudinal direction, and this is the lateral direction. Okay, so this direction is the longitudinal direction. So if we provide some slope in its longitudinal direction, so let we provide the railway track like this way. Okay, like if we will provide some slope in its longitudinal direction, here you can see we have provided the slope here at an angle of theta. So then this thing will be called as the gradient or grade. Okay, so gradients are provided to negotiate the rise or fall in the level of railway track. Okay, so we can provide the gradient like this way. We can provide the slope, or we can provide the gradient like this way. Okay, so this will be called as the falling gradient and this will be called as the rising gradient. Okay, so rising gradient rises the track in the direction of movement, whereas falling gradient causes the track to go down in the direction of movement. Okay, so here you can see in the railway track how falling gradient is provided. So this is the falling gradient and this is the rising gradient. Okay, so here this is the falling gradient, or we can say it as descending gradient, and here you can see this is the rising gradient, and we can say it as ascending gradient. Okay, so the gradient is generally provided in the longitudinal direction. Okay, then a gradient is represented by the distance traveled for a rise or fall of 1 unit. Okay, so it is generally represented as 1 in x or 1 in n or as percentage. Okay, so let it has given that there is a descending gradient of 1 in 100. Okay, so what do you mean by the descending gradient? That is 1 in 100. That means if we move 100 meter, okay, if we move 100 meter in its longitudinal direction, okay, if we move 100 meter in the longitudinal direction, then there will be a fall of 1 unit or 1 meter. Okay, then there will be a fall of 1 meter or 1 unit. Okay, if there is a, if there is given the descending if there is given the ascending gradient of 100, ascending gradient of 1 in 100, that means if we move 100 meter in the longitudinal direction, then there will be a rise of 1 unit. Okay, if we move 100 meter in the longitudinal direction, then there will be a rise of 1 unit. Okay, or we can represent it as in percentage also. Okay, so there are 4 types of gradient. One is ruling gradient, second one is momentum gradient, third one is pusher or helper gradient, fourth one is gradients in station yards. Okay, so generally the gradient is provided in the railway track to provide a uniform rate of rise or fall as far as possible, and to reach the various stations located at different elevations, and to reduce the cost of earthwork. So for these purposes, the gradient is generally provided in the railway track. So next we will discuss about these gradients one by one. So first one is ruling gradient. So ruling gradient is the maximum gradient which may be permitted on the section of the track. Okay, so ruling gradient is the maximum gradient, and also it is known as design gradient. Okay, and it is determined by maximum load that a locomotive can hold with max. That means on the basis of the maximum load carrying capacity of a locomotive, the ruling gradient is designed. Okay, according to that weight of the locomotive, we provide the ruling gradient, and that is the maximum value. Okay, that is the maximum permissible value. So the maximum permissible value of the ruling gradient is designed on the basis of maximum load carrying capacity of a locomotive. Okay, then next is ruling gradient is provided in a plane area of 1 in 150 to 1 in 250. Here you can see how the gradient is represented. Okay, so 1 in 150 means if we if we move 150 meter in the longitudinal direction, then there will be 1 unit of fall or rise. Okay, and in hilly area the gradient is provided, that is 1 in 100 to 1 in 150. Okay, then next come to momentum gradient. So momentum gradient is steeper than ruling gradient, that is overcome by momentum gathered while having a run in plane or on falling gradient in valleys. Okay, so generally we can see the momentum gradient in case of valleys. Okay, so let's take the example of valley. Okay, so in case of valley, this is the falling gradient. Okay, and this is the rising gradient. Okay, so to overcome this rising gradient, the locomotive should have sufficient momentum. Okay, and generally in case of valley, the locomotive get the momentum by this falling gradient. Okay, by running in this falling gradient, it gets its momentum, and by using that momentum, the locomotive is able to overcome this rising gradient. Okay, so to overcome to cross over the momentum gradient, the locomotive should have the sufficient momentum value, and that momentum generally the locomotive gets from from running on the falling gradient. Okay, and by using that momentum it can overcome this rising gradient, and generally this rising gradient is known as the momentum gradient. Okay, and one condition is there, there should be no stoppage, there should be no signal in between these gradients. Okay, so in between this gradient, in between this falling and rising gradient, there should be no stoppage, no signal. Okay, the locomotive should not be stopped at this territory. Okay, if there will be a stoppage, then the locomotive will lose its momentum, and there will be no sufficient momentum near the there will be no sufficient momentum for the locomotive to cross over this rising gradient. Okay, so to keep the momentum value, or to achieve sufficient momentum value to overcome this rising gradient, there should be no stoppage, no signal in between this track. Okay, so this is all about momentum gradient. Then next come to pusher or helper gradient. So generally when the gradient is very steeper, then the locomotive requires high power, okay, high power to overcome that gradient. Okay, so for that reason an extra locomotive is required to overcome that gradient. So in case of pusher or helper gradients, there are two locomotives. Okay, so one extra locomotive is generally provided to overcome that gradient. Okay, so by providing an extra locomotive, it reduces the length of railway section, and for that it also reduces the overall cost. Example, in Darjeeling Railways, 1 in 37 pusher gradient is used on Western Ghats, and broad gauge tracks and narrow gauge tracks 1 in 25 is provided. Okay, so this is all about pusher or helper gradient. So in case of pusher or helper gradient, an extra locomotive is provided to overcome that steeper gradient. Okay, the next come to the gradient at station yards. So generally this is the minimum gradient from drainage consideration. Okay, so this gradient is generally provided at station yards, as when the train comes to the station yard, due to the gravity effect and due to the strong wind, the train may move from its position. So to prevent that movement, a generally gradient is provided at the station yard for the stable stoppage of the train. Okay, and also when the train starts to move, generally the gradient generally the falling gradient is provided. Okay, as when the train starts to move, if we provide in that case the falling gradient, then it will be easy for the train to move. Okay, but if we provide the rising gradient during the when the train starts to move, then the train will require more power to start and to move on this gradient. So generally generally slightly falling gradient is provided on the railway track when the train starts to move at the station yard. Okay, so in Indian Railways, maximum gradient permitted is 1 in 400 in station yards, and minimum gradient that is permitted is 1 in 1000. Okay, so these are different types of gradients which we can see in the railway track. Okay, so this much all about today's class. In this in the next lecture we will discuss about the super elevation. Okay, thank you.